Ready to go. Good morning,
Morning.
Jay, and we have a special guest here today. In case you're looking in, a young man sitting in Justin's chair this morning, taking the first seat and demoting Justin to the backdrop, which is good. It's Silas, the youngest of the Fab Five grandchildren. Morning, Silas. Good to have you with us. Good to be here. Well, here we are.
It's good to be here too.
Yeah. Good to have us here together. Here we are, July 7th. So belated happy 250th birthday to everybody. Hope everybody had a good 4th of July holiday. I think it was good for the Costellis. It's been a good month for the grandkids, kind of wrapping up their, we'll just say, summer sports activities. We had Leo getting best defender, right, for his age group at IU soccer camp. We had Trevin and his team winning the championship of their last tournament in Kentucky. Trevin had a great batting series. I think he had several doubles over the games as well. We had Roman playing a little bit more aggressively AAU. Kaya makes traveling cheering squad, which is a big deal for the cheerleaders. And then our man Silas visiting with us today, hooping up this year and summer basketball, playing real aggressive that we haven't seen in a while. So the basketball player in him is coming out.
And he started a YouTube channel, which we're going to talk about on Aligned Life after we get done recording this.
Oh, right. Good deal. Another podcaster following this father's example. Well, all right. All the intros and an update on the family situation is all complete, so we'll move on. Jay, when I was putting this together after we last recorded our last podcast, we talked about, an encore mindset, establishing a mindset. So trying to build off of that a little bit, also considering what that mindset was as we defined it, but also to think about how do we get ourselves a little bit more relaxed at this period of time, anticipating that we have to move from a very structured environment and identity, from corporate titles and achievements to unscheduled activities and time. So when I was thinking about talking points, you had recorded your 2 episodes of the 5. Episode number 9, which was Loosen Your Grip, I think that's right, yeah. And number 10 was Before You Knew Better. I think those were the right titles. So for those watching or listening, Justin has a new podcast out called The 5 that he releases every Monday, obviously after 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you haven't checked it out, because I know I've mentioned it in the past, you should. It's a very intriguing thought behind the 5 of having a common thread throughout his 5 pillars: spirit, mind, body, and money and creativity. So I'll have him comment on that a little bit here. But as I was doing this, those 2 jumped out at me, especially in loosening your grip, which is, I think, a bad habit I have of not loosening up enough or bringing in bad habits. And that's what I wanted to kind of talk through and also get your input too. But before we start, I will challenge Silas, our special guest today, to kick us off, because it's about how we now have to move ourselves into being more relaxed about our day. So, Silas, to help us out, what would you say would be your perfect day? If you had to say what you would do from when you woke up in the morning till you went to bed at night, what's your best day? What would you be doing?
So when I wake up, I'll probably wake up kind of like early. Kind of wake up at like 7 or 8, something about like that, because I'm used to waking up at like 6 for school a lot. So maybe just waking up and playing video games, and then maybe trying to film videos with my friend, because I do that a lot of times. And that'll probably last to about like 3 or 4. And, oh, by the way, for lunch, should I do lunch now?
Yeah, anything.
Kroger sushi.
Our sushi man.
And so after that, I would probably take a shower, because we would probably like play like football in the backyard or something like that. And after that, I would hop on video games again. Then I would watch the World Cup for a little bit. Then after that, I would play more video games. And then after that, I would go to bed and watch a little bit of Phase Rug.
Okay. So it's really about just relaxing and doing what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't hear anything about reading or spending time with your family. Come on, man. We don't. Me and mom and me and mom don't make your ideal day. The ideal day.
Mom going at the gym. You go to work. You get back at like 3.
Okay.
Yeah, but also what we're throwing in here, though, which Silas didn't mention, we know that part of what he's been doing a lot this summer too is been reading a lot, right? You challenged yourself. You challenged yourself to read what?
10 chapter books for a PlayStation 5 because I had a PlayStation 4.
Okay, so you challenged yourself with that goal. You had a very strong goal to get something done, and you did 10 chapter books, which is pretty impressive because most adults don't read 10 books in the summertime as such. So that's impressive.
I actually read kind of like 11 because my dad didn't let me read this other one, and so I just read another one. So I technically kind of read 11 chapter books.
That's pretty impressive. So your day really, and then why I wanted to ask that question is because I think, and again, back to your dad's The 5 podcast, he had number 10, I think it was called Before We Knew Better. It's like when we're your age, we just kind of have a really good day. We wake up and do what we want to do, and we have our plan, and we do it just however we want to do it, like you do. Well, I'm going to do this, and then maybe this. But then as we get older, we start to find ourselves falling victim to a trap of being more concerned about what do we accomplish during a day. You know, we're not driven by what we want to do, like you described. As adults and we get older, we think more about what do we need to accomplish today, right? So Jay's number 10 podcast on the 5 was about before we knew better, we were more relaxed and just did what we wanted to do. And then as we get older, we fall victim to traps. And then he walked through how that bounces around spirit, mind, body, and then how we get creative around that. But I think what I liked, Silas, you were explaining to us, it's more about the challenge of just relaxing and being yourself, right? Not worrying about the day, right? Because right now it's summertime, so you don't have to worry about the day. Whereas adults, we worry more about the day and thinking about the hours and schedules. And I think as we move into this time of life that I'm in, that's a tough struggle. And one that I wanted to call attention to is that struggle to move the mindset, continuing from our last podcast, into it's more about being, like Silas, you described. It's being something rather than trying to do something all the time. So I think that's critical. And Justin's 9th 5 talked about loosening the grip, meaning to be more comfortable with not feeling trapped by those habits. Right, Jay, right? When you say that's where we're at.
Yes. No, I agree. Yeah, I just let you keep going.
Yeah. And that also ends to another important matter to think about is that we have to deconstruct the busy badge. You know, as we're growing up, and Silas is lucky he's not in that category yet, although his schedule is very busy. But as we get older, our schedules become very busy with all types of activities. So we again define ourselves by how busy we are. And we have to deconstruct that busy badge that we've carried all of our life and defining our success by what's accomplished. And I think that's kind of, you know, before you knew better, you know, when we didn't think too much about growing up and defining our successes, we just did what we wanted to do. But as we grew up and got bigger in our life, we defined ourselves by that busyness. And so my word of thought is to be defined more by being in this phase of life rather than by doing.
I think busy is a word that we could get rid of. I know a lot of people use it almost as an excuse. And yes, we are busy. We are doing a lot of things. But I think busy ends up being more of a negative word. And it's one, I think it gets used as an excuse. Like, we're busy by choice, and we may not want to like acknowledge that. And yes, there are things that add to our busyness of the day that we feel like we're not in control, but it's still a choice. And so you can say you're busy, which sends you down one path, psychologically in the way you're thinking, or you can frame it from another way. Like you can be thinking about all the things you get to do in that busyness, and like driving boys to practice, like that adds to the busyness of the day. Not necessarily something that we love doing, but remind ourselves that we're lucky to be in a position where we can afford, financially and time wise, to take the boys to practice and add to the busyness of our day. So I just think busy is a word that we could probably do without. Like, I don't like the word can't. Like that word I try not to have said by the boys in the house, because you can. Like, you may not be able to do it today, and there may be things you have to do, but like I think words matter, and I think busy is another word to try to break and just see how it changes your perception of life. If you catch yourself saying busy, that's fine. Don't beat yourself up over it. But like the next time you go to say busy, or even correct yourself, oh, I shouldn't say busy, I'm whatever it might be, or frame it a different way, because I think that psychologically it matters. The words we choose matter, and I think busy is a word that hurts us more than it helps us.
Yeah.
And I do think there is a badge, especially maybe not in your demographic, but like of hustle culture of my age and below. Like, it's almost like if you're not filling your day with stuff and not grinding hard, you're not successful. And I think a lot of people are realizing that so much of that, yes, you need to work hard, but you don't have to work nonstop. And like, you shouldn't, and you need to take time for yourself, and you need to have time to be bored. Like, I've talked a lot about that on the 5, of finding the opportunity to be bored, because in the boredom is when ideas spur. Like, I think it was in last week's episode, I talked about how, like, in boredom, that's when your brain goes and it creates its own, like, you become you become unbored by yourself. But you have to be bored to give your mind the opportunity to be able to get to that point. To now you start to solve a problem you didn't know you were thinking about, or you come up with a new idea. So, long story short, I think busy should be a word we try to drop from our vocabulary, because it's either used as that badge, which I don't think is a badge we really want to be wearing, or it becomes a negative thought of like, oh, I don't have enough time. It adds to anxiety and stress because I'm so busy, when the reality of it is a lot of the busyness you've chosen. And if you didn't want to be that busy, you can make different choices. And that may mean you have different things going on in your life and different outcomes, but at the end of the day, you can choose your busyness.
Yeah. I think that's very appropriate. I'm going to get to something that I was going to bring into our discussion later, but I will here in a moment. So, like, Silas, what do you think? Do you think you are busy today, or do you think you're just having fun when you go through your
kind
day?
of just having like fun.
Just
I'm
kind of
not
having
busy.
fun, right? Right. You don't see the day as, oh, I've got to do all this by 12 o'clock, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. You see it.
Do you know what time it is throughout the day?
Yeah.
We kind of do, right, Silas? Because eventually we got to stop to have, and also, and this gets to the point that Justin was making. We get busy, but also that busyness does exist because of schedules, and especially each of us, as we're growing up as adults, we have schedules because we have to be at work or we have to be here. And then if you have a family, obviously you're busy because you have schedules based around the kids. When you're a grandparent, even if you're retired in the Encore Phase, you eventually have to worry about, being busy, especially if you got 5 that are in town with you. The weekends are busy because they're all very busy and we want to be a part of their lives. So there is a clock-driven moment to ourselves that keeps us committed, but that's something that we should choose to do.
I was saying, again, those are all choices. Like,
Right.
We made a choice to put the boys in sports. Now, yes, I think that they need it. It will help them grow to be good people, and they should, but that's a choice. And you made the choice to be a present grandparent who comes to as many games and events as possible. That's the choice I would want to make, but it is a choice. And so if you don't like the feeling busy, then you choose not to go see your grandkids as much. And for some people, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, both in all of those situations, the busyness of those lives were choices. And you could have chosen not to do that. We could have said no sports and had the boys do something else, or no travel sports, just rec. there would have been different outcomes that came from it, but we would be less busy because of it. So it almost feels like we don't have choice. Like, this is what we have to do. We have to put the boys in there. We have to be at everything. You don't have to. Like,
Right.
that is, if it's of importance to you, then it becomes a choice, and you always can change that, or you can make other choices in your life to be able to make that work. So I make a choice that, sometimes I work odd hours, and I do work from, like tonight, Roman's got practice from 5:30 to 7:30. So I'm going to either sit in my car or go to a Starbucks, and I'll get some work done during the day because we're recording a podcast in the middle of the day. And so that's a choice I made. If I want to do this podcast, I want to do a podcast with Silas. So I'm making the choice. I still have other commitments I need to make up. So I'm going to make that work up. That doesn't have to be between the regular hours of working hours. I'll do that in the evening instead of just being able to sit in the car and watch a YouTube show or something.
Yeah.
So all choices.
Yeah, and I think that's part of how I wanted to frame our message today, and especially this retirement encore phase of life, that we still have a lot that we're carrying with us from that 40 plus years of a work life that's hard to dismiss. So we've talked about that in past podcasts, and I've written about it in Terry's Thoughts, of that transition of getting comfortable with just relaxing and not making everything an obligation, but a desire to want to do something. As you said, Justin, it's about you decide that's what you want to do. You don't have to, but you can, and part of it is because you can, right? When you're retired, you don't have a structured scheduled day of 9 to 5. It could be whatever it is. And as you asked Silas if he remembers what time of day it is, I mean, to him, he kind of knows, but he doesn't know that it's exactly 1 o'clock, because it's whatever he's doing. If that's when he gets hungry and that's when he decides to have lunch one day, that's when he eats, or he doesn't, or he decides to do something different. And since you brought that up, Jay, what I was going to do is funny, again, as I was putting this together, in the Daily Stoic, I've continued to kind of follow suit of reading these each day. On the third, it talked about turn have to into get to. Mm-hmm. So just to your point of, well, Roman's got practice from 5:30 to 7:30, so I'm going to get a bit of work done. Well, that's what this talks about in this particular day on July 3rd. And it says, I'm not going to read the whole page, but it talked about a long to-do list seems intimidating and burdensome. All the things that have to do in the course of a day or week. But a get-to-do list sounds like a privilege. Like you said, you get to do this. Like you choose to be active, and in doing so, you get to do it. So the mindset that was being interpreted by reading the Stoic remark is about that you don't try to impose your will on the world. Instead, see yourself as fortunate to receive and respond to the will in the world. Like, and then it goes into examples. Stuck in traffic, few wonderful moments to relax and sit. Your car breaks down after idling for so long. Oh, what a nice nudge to make a long walk the rest of the way. A swerving car driven by a distracted cell phone yielding idiot nearly hits you, and you were walking and looked you need to tow with muddy water. What a reminder about how precious our existence is. So like you were saying, each little event that goes on really is an opportunity to relax and do something. It's not to be threatened, but it's you get to do, right? You don't have to set any boundaries.
And I'm sure some people will roll their eyes at like framing the negative things that happen in a positive way. And I would just say you can keep rolling your eyes and you can be miserable and frustrated over every little thing, or you can begin to train yourself to, feel the initial frustration. That guy almost hit me. I'm not very happy about that. But then rather than stay mad and stay frustrated at this, Silas, remembering things that happened to us months ago and holding on to it, like shift to the positive side of things. Like think about the positive of it. To your point of like, okay, I dodged a bullet. How precious is life? And again, it's not necessarily natural for us to do that. I feel like we are more rewarded for complaining in society, and everybody loves to get together and complain. But you have a choice, and that's going to frame your perspective on life. And so, yes, being stuck in traffic is not ideal, but it gives you a few moments of just of quiet. Turn the radio down and just be with your thoughts. Like they all end up being positive things. You can find the positive in anything if you look hard enough. And I think that finding that positive is what begins to recorrect you back towards the good.
Yeah.
Law of attraction. If you keep on focused on the negative, more and more of it's going to come. And if you can direct your attention to the positive and find the get to in the moment rather than the have to, it's going to make it a more enjoyable situation. And thinking about my obsession with the authentic life, all the more reason to live true to yourself and try to find that authentic life, because when you are living in your authentic life, doing what you're created to be doing and what you're best at, a lot of the have-tos just naturally become get-tos because you're doing what you enjoy.
Yeah.
And so there will always be have-tos on your list, things you don't love to do where you're going to have to force yourself to think about getting to. But if you can stack your days with more things that you get to do, it becomes a lot easier. You don't have to think about it, and it's not even forcing yourself to think about it, get to. You've stacked your day with a lot of things that you enjoy doing. There's no reason that more of us can't put more natural get-tos on our days, which makes us have to reframe the have-tos to the get-tos less. And when you're operating from get-to most of the time, then it just naturally carries over anyways. It becomes a lot easier. So stack your days with the get-tos that you choose, throw in the have-tos, reframe your way of looking from have-to to get-to, and see how life changes for you.
Right.
My guess is, I can't guarantee it, but I'm willing to bet that life gets better. And only thing that you changed was how you viewed the things you have to or get to do each day.
Yeah, and I would agree, because I will attest to, even the have tos, like getting the yard cut, or the cleanup chores and the flower beds, or the daily routine to make sure the house is in order, or just go down the list of things have to get done, because again, this is just life, and life happens, and you've got these things. But it's a sense now at this time of life where even those have-tos are just, you get to do them because, number one, you can do them when you want rather than forcing those into a small window, which means you're always rushing to do something when you're working. So for me, what I'm getting and appreciating more is this opportunity to even look at the have-tos as a good moment of enjoyment rather than an obligation. Mm-hmm. I mean, we always have obligation, but the point I want to make before you jump in is even what we just talked about, the idea of stuck in traffic, or you have this downtime or waiting on Roman, a habit that we bounced around a few conversations ago was, because we live in this everything available at the fingertips, we also should recognize that we shouldn't place that free time that we get into immediately jumping on our phone and trying to do something, mm-hmm. right? I think you even commented to this about, well, instead of when I have that free moment at I'm stuck in traffic, jumping on the phone and checking everything, maybe that is the moment where you just sit back, close your eyes, and just relax a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I think that's critical, and something that I feel that's important for us at this time of my life, and for those of us listening in the same age group. We do have to recognize that we need to take those breaths and not try to fill the gaps with something all the time because we have available time. Mm-hmm. It's not necessary anymore. It is okay to be comfortable doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. My comment is back to the have to, and not really connected to that, but still something I would say. There will be things that you have to do that you don't enjoy doing today, that there might come a time in life where you would give anything to go back and have to do it because you can't. Health as we get older, sometimes it's not fair to us, and you may hate going and cutting the grass and doing the flower beds, but you may find yourself in the future with Parkinson's or something. Not you, just
right. You in general. Yeah.
And now you can't do that thing that you hated to do, and there's nothing more you would rather do than go out and push the lawnmower around. So again, it's all about framing things. And I don't want you to think about the negative and be afraid of health. That's another reason to do everything you can to take care of yourself. But also realize there may come a time where this thing that you hate doing, you would give anything to do it. Driving 8 hours to South Carolina for AAU, not probably something I would love to do. I'm getting ready to do that tomorrow. But in 3 years, I would give anything to drive to South Carolina with Roman for AAU because he's going to be in college and he's going to be out of the house. So the things that we hate to do, we take for granted the fact that one day there will be circumstances that we would give anything to go back in time and do that thing again. Or there's somebody right now today that would give anything to do that. So if you're having trouble finding the get to and the have tos, just broaden your view on this thing to one day I may not be able to do this, or I know somebody who can't do this and I know they would love to do this if they could, and just reframe it.
Yeah.
And I know most people will not do that because they think it's bullshit, but like it works. And there's neuroplasticity that's part of rewiring your brain to change the way you see these things. And so I wanted to throw that wider lens out, that look at it from the perspective of there will be a day where you won't be able to do this thing you hate to do. And don't take that for granted, even if it's not something you really enjoy, because of what will be the reason you can't do it will be worse than you having to do it today.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that also, and I'm going to come to you in a moment, Silas, so we'll drag you back in here. It's also about, at this time of life, we have to be very careful about always saying yes, because we no longer have, the requirement to be somewhere at a given time, or we have our work. So the other piece too
that's
is
all
this,
stages of life.
Yeah.
Not saying yes. Because saying yes is saying no to something that you might actually really want to do. Thanks, buddy. You're good.
Yeah, true. And then that's the point. We have to learn how to say no and be comfortable with that. And I'm going to just say, especially at this time of our life, in the Encore Phase, where we can have a tendency to say yes a lot more. But it's also very important to recognize, again, Jay, you're right, throughout our life, but more importantly now, we have to learn how to say no, especially when something is around, if you would, negative energy. If there are things that we're doing, maybe even, that we never liked doing, but we just did them because, we now have to say no and get rid of that so-called negative energy around us so that we can be more comfortable with resting and increase our time of joy without even realizing we're taking that away. Because again, I think it's all about, we've identified ourselves with staying busy, staying very active, chasing career titles, accomplishments, defining success a certain way. And now we have to learn at this time of life to forget about success. It's no longer about success, I'm going to say, in a traditional definition. Success now is once again about being, not doing, and enjoying what's around us. So, Silas, before I move on...
Hold that thought for Silas.
So, Silas, since you're the young one in this group here, and of course you have older brothers, and Roman and Leo, what's the one thing that all the people that are older than you do that you seem to always shake your head at? Like, what do you see, your mom or dad or your, Nana and Papa doing, or your brothers doing, that you just go, what are they doing? What would you think? It seems to be funny for you seeing us do. Anything come to mind?
What do you mean?
Well, what do you see, like when you're watching, let's say, when you're watching your dad do something, and you go, what is he doing that for? Is there anything like that seems so strange to you that your dad would do just to get something done?
Nothing really.
Nothing really? Okay. All right. Because the reason I was asking was I often wondered, like, when you're young and you look at somebody older, you just seem to think, well, geez, that seems so funny to me. Why would they spend all of their time or get angry about that? Anything? No? Okay. That's all right, because you don't see it. And that's my point. At your point in life, you see things and people doing things, and you look at them and go, wow, they're doing something. But as we get older, I think we look at things, and I could, I'll pick on your dad. When he was at a certain age, especially when he was a teenager, I would look at him and go, what in the world is he thinking? Why is he even worried about that? When he was in college, I would go, kind of the same thing. What's all this concern about, But as you said, you don't really see that. You just see a person being busy and enjoying life, right?
Right.
Right. And that's the point I wanted to make. when we're your age, we don't see a problem with just looking at everybody and appreciating who they are and what they're doing. As we get older, again, we put this badge on people, and we begin to have thoughts about them, and then that negatively affects us. And then I have a bad habit of thinking about it too long, like why I reacted that way, why I didn't do something. And if I think about it too long, then I don't enjoy what's right in front of me. And at this phase of life, I'm trying to change that, and that's what I want to try to encourage others that are in this group, with me at this age of retirement, and then throughout life is to not waste that energy, right? To always don't try to bring the past in. Like I said, when we are working, we have a lot of bad habits. We have a lot of routines that we follow, and I think we carry those into this time of life and try to run our days the same way, like how we did when we were working. And I think that's what negatively impacts how we enjoy this time of life, and why some people may become a bit, disenchanted with retirement, because it doesn't motivate them the same way. It shouldn't motivate us the same way. We're not driven by that any longer. So I was just curious about that, of trying to always be defining our day around productivity. Like Silas told us what his best day was. It wasn't around being productive. It was about the enjoyment he has with his friends, with challenging himself with the gamings, with his reading, challenging himself to read 10 chapter books. Although there was a goal at the end of that, but that was still okay. We still have to have goals, and I think that's important. And the real difference for us in this time of life of retirement is to stop trying to bring those old work habits into our day, of trying to figure out that we're only good if we accomplish something in the day. We always accomplish something. So I'm saying that it's more of how we view our accomplishments, and to switch heavily into just being who you are and enjoying the day no matter what, and not worrying about whether everything was finished. That is the key that I'm seeing here, and being more comfortable with now. That it really is about accepting, if you would, the initial discomfort of being, I'm just going to say, lazy. We're not lazy, but I'm just going to use that to draw people's attention to pausing a moment and think about it. But there really is a discomfort from going hard at every day for 40 plus years, and now not needing to go hard every day and feeling like you are worth something, which is another discussion, and we've also talked about that. What's our purpose? What's our value at this time of life? Because we haven't defined it that way, and we have to redefine what that means, because our value is who we are, right, Silas?
Right.
I mean, you're important because you're Silas, right?
Right.
And now that you're our NBA analyst and providing me with all the updates on the trades that are going on, that is value to me, because I don't have to pay attention to it. I know Silas is going to give me an update, and that's pretty cool to have. And it's the enjoyment you have in doing that, right? Right. So it's a good thing to do, and a reminder that to all of us, that when we see you, and I see Kaya and Trevin, Roman and Leo, it's a reminder to me that they each have very unique talents, and they go about their days. So I'm beginning to see how I need to return. So back to the Jay's 10th 5 discussion of before we knew. I think it's important for us as aging adults to remember that when we were younger, we didn't think. We do. We do because we didn't know any better. We didn't have to challenge ourselves to know better. We just were living our life, and I think that's what's critical for us, to shed the badges, shed the titles, shed the desire to need to be somebody, and just be ourselves, and handle that discomfort of being lazy or restless as a good sign that you're on the right path, not a negative path, but the right path, because that's what we get to do now, right? Right. It's a good thing for us to do. So So we talked, Silas, about the relaxed life that you live and lead. Do you worry about like writing stuff down to decide what to do next?
Not really.
Not really. You just again just do something, right? Just
Yeah.
the day is what it becomes, right? And that's the best message. But Justin, I think though still as an adult you may disagree, but I think it's important for us sometimes to sit down and still write a few things down on what we need to have our day be like, right? I mean, we've talked in the past about the need for a structure, but I don't want it to be at this phase, because I think earlier phases of life you still need that structure and still need kind of a to-do list, but the to-do list should be more about you finding a way to be more relaxed. In this phase of life, I think the to-do list is nothing more than a way to re-examine what you want, right?
Yeah. I think that the to-do list is not a bad thing. I think it depends on the individual and kind of what works. I've read, your to-do list should have 3 things. Like, to make today a success, just 3 things. Because some people may be overwhelmed. You have other people that love checking boxes. So put as many boxes out there as you can so you feel accomplished and you build momentum on every little thing. Do I think you need to put everything like make my bed, brush my teeth, all those types of things as your to-do list? Probably not. Maybe Silas because of stage of life. But I think that you could also, if you don't want to feel, if having a to-do list makes you feel boxed in or there's too much structure, if that doesn't work for you, then make it a point to every day just write down 3 things that you did and just to be able to look back. But I do think writing is helpful in processing, especially if you're trying to change something. If you're trying to change a behavior, you're trying to change the way you view life, then write it down, because there's no way for you to really hold yourself accountable. And then it's nice to be able to go back and read those things and see, like when I was really happy and doing a lot of fun things, like I noticed that every day one of the things I wrote that I did was I went for a walk, or I went and worked out, or I called somebody that I hadn't talked to. Like, the only way for you to know what worked for you in the past is to actually have a document of it, or a record of it. So whether you do your to-do list and you write notes, or at the end of the day you write a reflection of what you accomplished that day, just taking 5-10 minutes to do that, I think will help out a lot, and it becomes a good practice.
Yeah, I would agree, because here's what I'm saying that's important is, like, especially now, is if we're trying to make that transition from being, if you would, structured, hurried, career-driven, goal-oriented, driven by schedules, to one of being comfortable with having a lot of free time. We could just think about, like, if you can, putting it down and deciding yourself. Like, if you could write and plan out your day from the moment your alarm goes off to when you hit the pillow at night, what would your day look like? These are just open-ended questions. I just want the audience to kind of have them.
I think that ideal day exercise is really powerful, and I think you should do the ideal day exercise. It's one that I do with clients. I think you should do it with no restrictions and no comments like I did to Silas earlier about what about family, what about reading. Like, what would be your ideal day, and write it all out with no restrictions. It could be in a totally different place, but just to see what your ideal day looks like, I think it's a really powerful exercise.
Yeah, I think so too, and I'm beginning to see that more and more. And I also think when you do that, because again we've talked about, as relationships change, and especially in this time of life, also we'll stop and recognize that a significant number of our relationships were, if you would, work driven, because you had the consistency with being around certain people, but now those folks and the consistency of being around the same people isn't there. So I think you also need to kind of like be asking yourself, who would you want to spend time with? Where would you be? What would you prioritize as important to you? And then once you've designed that ideal day, you should also maybe ask yourself, how did it make you feel? And then from there, you can define yourself and go out and, discuss with yourself what are the priorities that get you there to a point of not being hurried? Right, Silas? I mean, you don't hurry through your day, do you? You don't rush from one thing to another, do you?
No.
No? But you just kind of, like they say, when the Spirit moves you, right? If it's go out and hang around the pool, if it's go out and aggravate my brothers while they're doing things, if I want to do this, I just do it, right? So the day is more relaxed. And I think we have to realize, and I hate using the cliche, but I think we have to bring the inner child back into our life. You know, referencing back to the idea of before we knew. You know, that's always when we were a child. Before we knew, we had a good focus. And as we get older and we know a few things, obviously some of that is because of the way we're disciplined, or the idea that we're focused on the things that we always do wrong. You know, especially as a parent, we sometimes have a tendency to point out to our child what they did wrong and not point out all the things they did right. Right, Silas?
Right.
I mean, how many times a day does your dad tell you what you did right? You're allowed to answer.
Not that much.
Not that much, right? We don't. I mean, we know he does. We know he tells you all the good things. I'm just doing that just to have conversation with us here today, just to the point. We don't see that all the time, right? Even if our dad tells us all the things we did right, or what they loved you to do did in the day, like your dad said, all the time you spent reading, all the time you spent with, your mom and him, the moment in school where you helped out that one schoolmate of yours that you saw was having trouble that one day, right? I mean, you just did that. Those were all the things that you did. But as always, the thing we fall on and always say to our child is, why didn't you do this? Or why not that? And that's just human nature. So not to drag anything between, because I did the same thing to your dad. I mean, I can look through life and remember all the things that he did right, but everything that for me was always about what he didn't do. If I look to his basketball days, it wasn't all the things he did right. It was every time his first shot was he leaned back, and he would miss his first shot because every time he leaned back and he knew he shouldn't lean forward. And it's funny now because I used to say that to him, and now he says it to Roman. Roman doesn't jump sometimes, so the first thing is about your dad saying, Roman, you got to jump. Well, So the same thing. It's just parents tell their kids, right, Silas? Parents tell their kids what they did wrong rather than always what they did right. Right?
Right.
Right. And as we get older, teachers do the same thing. Teachers don't always tell you how wonderful you did. They always point out the things that are wrong. When you go get a job, the things that are held against you are the one or two times that you didn't follow this procedure or process. But then the day you created something special that no one ever thought about and made vast improvements in processes and saved this kind of money, no one recognizes that. And those are the bad habits, Silas, that I think we bring along as we get older, and especially when we're retired. For me, and that's what I need to focus on, I bring in some bad habits of mine that when I was younger, when I was working, that I bring into my day today, and it disrupts me having a good day because I worry too much about, I got to do all this. And I think that's what I want to say today with our letting go. You have to continue to let go of old habits.
Just going back to the comment about words matter, try reframing that, saying you've brought with you habits from the past. They may not be habits you want to have, but don't define them as bad habits, because that automatically then it's neither good or bad till we define it, or we assign a value to it. So just going back to the words matter, I think say that you brought habits with you from the past that you want to change, but I wouldn't characterize them as bad habits, because that makes it harder, and then you feel bad at yourself for doing it.
Exactly.
Why am I doing it? Versus, okay, here's an old habit that no longer serves me. I'm going to change it. And just that subtle dropping of bad makes a difference.
Yeah, good point. Very, very good point. And the last thing I just wanted to hit upon is that in this phase, and again, as we've said from time to time, even in past discussions, it's more about, this applies throughout any phase of life. But our discussion here and in this particular podcast, it's about this phase of life. But it's also a balance between boundaries and support, right? I mean, we also have to recognize that there are still external pressures upon us. Again, when we're growing up, there's external pressures to always do well and always to understand the difference between good, bad, and ugly. As we get a little older and young, mature adult years, it's the balance of making sure that we don't do things that we're not thinking about because we're just free and open, and that could hurt us or to impede our progress. As we're young adults coming into our career, we're so focused upon doing the right things so that we get great reviews. But those definitions of success, we need to put those aside, because now the pressures in life are more about, and in a funny way, the way they were when we were young, making sure we take care of ourselves. I mean, our health is more important to us now. I mean, health is important throughout our whole life, right, Silas? We've got to take care of ourselves, right?
Right.
Because if we don't take care of ourselves, then those opportunities we may have in front of us may never happen. And I think, Justin, you said that earlier about, there are days when we're 80, we're going to wish we were still able to go out and do whatever, but we now can't because physically we may not be able, as we're beginning to see. And I'm seeing now too that, before I used to go out and cut the grass in 90+ degree weather and not even think about the difference between the front and backyard. Now I'm finding out that after I get done cutting the front, I got to stop for a moment, take a break, get some water before I cut the back. Because if I don't, I really feel it. And those are just natural things. But I want us to remember that, not just to face it, but to recognize that there are some pressures, external pressures being placed on us that we need to just totally ignore and be that inner child again of just going on with it, right? Just moving forward. Okay? So bottom line for today is to remember to just relax. Don't hold on to things. Be comfortable with the level of discomfort of making that change from being extremely busy and tethered to schedules and times to not, and recognizing that all of those are now good habits to have. So with that, we'll put this to a close, because these two have another podcast to put together here on Silas's YouTube channel. So when that comes out, guys, start looking for that so you can see Silas's podcast on his YouTube channel and see what that's all about. I'll be anxious to see that as well. And as always, Silas, we gotta never quit searching, never settle, and always keep looking for that purpose in our life. Right? Right. It sounds good. All right. So thanks everybody for being with us today. Silas, you have anything to say before we close up? Any advice?
No, not really.
Not really? Okay. It's all good. Jay, any closing comment and such?
Nope. Just thanks for joining us, Silas.
Yeah. Thanks for being here and helping us out. Really appreciate it. Liked your perspective. So again, everybody have good days until the next time around.
Yep.
Yep.